Hi, my name is Joe Jackson. I'm an interviewer and a broadcaster. And what you're about to hear is one of the 1,400 interviews I conducted over a 30-year period for nearly all major media outlets in Ireland. But please allow for the fact that many of the interviews were done for the print media and recorded on cassette tapes. So some are, let's say, sonically challenged. But sonic considerations should give way to historical significance, I believe. And I'm glad to say that at least some powers that be in RTE Radio 1 agreed with me on this, and broadcast between 2015 and 2018 many of my interviews in a series called The Joe Jackson Tapes Revisited. What follows is a programme I was going to broadcast in that series but never did. And this podcast differs in one major sense from all those shows. Look at it this way. Hot air blowing as this may sound on my behalf, it actually was editor Niall Stokes who said in 1988 that I brought, quote, psychology to the hot press interview. I think he should actually have said psychological probing. Either way, that had always been one of my idiosyncrasies, and it still is. And given that Tommy Tiernan began doing on TV in 2019 the kind of psychologically probing interview I did with him in 2004, I reckoned that maybe fans of the man might find it more interesting to hear the tapes we did, uncut and minus my usual revisionist narration. I also decided to steal from an ebook I wrote based upon my interviews with Tori Amos the phrase soul-searching and uncensored. I realised it applies as much to him as it did to Tori. But before I sit Tiernan down in Joe Jackson's psychiatrist's chair, no, I'm not a shrink, but that was a phrase Niall Stokes used as a subheading for an interview I did. Let me say this. Near the end of the first half hour, when Tommy, who was born in Donegal and 35 at the time of this interview, and I discussed the nature of the religious calling that, well, called out to us both as teenagers, I suggest that part of this spiritual craving probably sits at the soul of my interviews. I now believe that the same is true of everything Tommy Tiernan has done or will do. Part 2 of this interview will follow in a week or so. If you want to read the original article that came out of this chat, check joejacksoninterviewer.com. Tommy Tiernan, October the 15th or something, 2004. Okay, I'm gonna take a line from your thing. This is discussed. This is like the essay you were given when you came out of school.
Yeah. The use of religious imagery in the works of Gerard.
That's not it. That's not this one. Right, there's comedy is a medium for revenge. We can deflate and punish the pomposity and the rejection that hurt us. Comedy is power.
Did I say that?
No, you didn't. Joan Rivers said it to me. Okay. Joan Rivers said it to me about 2 weeks ago.
All right.
So what about that element of comedy being revenge, power and control and getting back? I mean, is that part of the urging?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there was like the example that leaps to my head originally is the story that I used to do a few years ago about my Latin teacher.
Okay.
And I had a teacher who I didn't see eye to eye with, and I guess my doing the story then was my way of, he had a crack at me for 4 years.
About what? About just stupidity?
No, I think it was just he was somebody who's I'm dancing between crocodiles here now. He was somebody who
do you have to be careful what you say about it?
Oh, do you? Yeah, 'cause I do have to be careful. I don't send because when you're giving an opinion of somebody, is that libelous?
No.
Right, then he was a mean-spirited.
Yeah, no, that's not libelous.
A mean-spirited bully of a teacher.
Okay. Did he physically bully you, mentally?
The whole class. With things.
Right.
Pencils.
Like what with pencils?
Like sticking a pencil in your head and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Puncture your ego.
Yeah, that's it. Just
Probably had that effect.
Probably that we were all too hot.
How old would you have been at that stage?
Between the ages of 11 and 15.
And what kind of impact did that?
He marked us.
Yeah, no, but it can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had those teachers. I was lucky I stood up to one.
Yeah.
That was the best thing I did in the class. And then it never happened again. But I know what it did to other guys who were, it would break your ego. It would chip at your self-esteem. It would make you ill-equipped for going out into the world.
We were so terrified of that class.
Right.
Really, really terrified of it, And it was me creating a story about it then was a story about the fear.
Yeah.
And it was a story about, in a way, and then it was the older me looking back and confronting this man as a man and saying, when I was a boy, I wasn't able to do that.
Okay.
Right? But now, from my manhood, I can call you as I see you.
But you
which
know,
is
just
bully.
within your act on a stage, you wouldn't go and confront him physically.
No, I met him physically on the
Did you?
street.
And what did you feel like doing or saying?
Well, I just tried to give him I was shy and retiring, and I. Yeah.
You were now, were you?
I was, yeah.
Did you not take out a pencil?
No, I didn't. No.
Do you want to?
But see, I'm the Scottish Pimpernel. You know.
Alright.
You have to be. I'm cloaked.
Yeah, okay. I go at them at night on the stage.
That's it, yeah.
And they never know who it is.
No.
But you wouldn't. Would you not like to verbally just tell him what he? I mean, he knows now. He'll know now.
But you
That he stupidly mark children unnecessarily or whatever.
He. Would I like to? I guess I've often thought that people who write love songs, who sing about love all the time, are the people least able to live loving lives.
Okay. That's what Bob Dylan doesn't write love songs. He writes hate songs.
Yeah, I've often thought about Bono like that. Actually, I've often thought about oh, I love you, you love me. Love is the most important thing in the world.
Love is the sweetest thing.
Yeah, and that I imagine you're only able to do those type of things if you realise your own short. It's what you're trying to do in your art is make up the gap that you feel in your life.
But you felt that gap in your life. I remember I read an interview with you 5 years ago, and that's when I first said I wanted to talk to you, just to myself. I talk to myself sometimes, long before Yvonne, long before anything. And you said that about you. You know that when you went to one style of therapy, maybe young, that it was about unraveling the ability to love and love yourself.
Yeah.
And that line is still in your new show.
Yeah.
Are you the bollocks who kind of says fuck you, and fuck you to the neighbour because you're saying it to yourself? Is that still you?
But
with the low self-esteem, you know what I mean? That's
absolutely,
your joke.
yeah. That's I didn't think that joke didn't come out of fresh air.
No, all right.
There's yeah, but
But do you still feel that? Do you secretly hate your neighbour rather than love your neighbour? That's the joke. That's the line.
How do you mean hate my neighbour now?
Well, the way you say, we're told to love your neighbour as thyself, but what if you don't love yourself?
Yeah.
So that you then hate your neighbour and you go look over the head and say fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off to everybody.
No, I'm not like that.
Are you not?
No.
All right, okay.
No. That was more a comment on the state of Israel.
Was it? Was it really? But you're not a totally loving person.
Who is?
Yeah.
There was one totally loving person who lived, and what happened to him?
Okay.
Bono. Oh, no, another thinner fella.
Who didn't wear heels on his shoes.
No. There's a piece in the news show about actually, so we were given a choice. This creature, able to love perfectly, arrived, and as a mass, we said, give us Barabbas.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is that your view of the human condition?
That what?
That
we're all Barabbas.
But we would be more happier to embrace Barabbas, whether it's now or before, than we were Jesus.
Do you know why? Because Jesus would have meant change, and Barabbas was more the same.
All right.
That's why, and I think we're very uncomfortable with change, because changes there are people. I think we're afraid of change because we think it's an earthquake, and we even though the house we're in, it's might not have the greatest foundation in the world. We're kind of we can sleep there.
All right.
Right, and we kind of think, well, if I lived in this other house, it'd be much better. But I prefer not to have to go through the earthquake in order to get there, and most of us are afraid of that. I think
it's a skewed view of the world.
It's a skewed view.
Yeah.
Do you think so? I don't think so.
I think there's a cynicism in you.
No, I don't. No, there isn't.
There is no cynicism in you.
There is, yeah. I have one eye squinting and one eye open.
Yeah. But you joke in the show too about getting fucked up in school. Was it school? Or the religious stuff in your act is huge. It's a huge element of it. It's like Lenny Bruce. You know what I mean? It's central.
Yeah.
Well, and you go at it from every conceivable angle.
Yeah.
And more you have to evolve, obviously. So how central was that to fucking you up, if anything fucked you up? I mean, did Jesus leave the mark? Because I know this quest, and I know you have a spiritual quest, and I know you've explored the Christian communities, Buddhism. So obviously there's a kernel inside you.
The way it marked me the most was as I was as a teenager, and I got I was sent away to a boarding school, a religious boarding school. I was sent away to a religious boarding school when I was 16.
Okay.
And two things happened. I think one was that I think most teenagers go through this a time of panic, 12 months of panic, and I went through mine, and mine was had to do with splitting up with a girl,
Okay.
and believing that I ought to be a Christian. And the type of Christianity I had at that time was a very austere, punishing, kind of a loveless Catholicism, which is it's kind of like it was kind of like as if my invisible best friend was a Russian penitent monk, right, who was given out to me the whole time. I have to be more like this, and I have to be more like that, and that was really depressing. And
But where did you inherit the Russian penitent monk?
I don't know because there.
Why didn't you get a sweet angel Gabriel
Well,
on the other shoulder?
I tried to. I was torn between. I didn't know if I didn't know if I wanted to be Gandhi or Mike Scott.
So they met in the middle. One eye secure and the other eye open.
So that's.
But was that kind of religious severity part of your family?
Not at all. No, we're
Right.
a-religious.
Really?
Yeah.
So then you should have been liberated at that level. You should have been liberated
But
from those
maybe the kind of the penitency was something that I had never experienced.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was something that struck me as fresh and new and something that I ought to be.
Was this though what that teacher or other teachers in school was talking about espousing? Because this
No, it wasn't. No,
that stranglehold should have been let go by the time you were 14, 15, 16
No.
in school.
See, I wasn't religious at all. We were up in, after the age of about 10, Mass wasn't a feature in our
For the
house.
family?
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Who else is in the family with Shami? Many kids?
I've two younger sisters and one younger brother.
All right, okay. And mum and dad, are they still alive?
They're both good people, yeah. They're
Yeah,
both.
okay, but were they weren't pushing Mass on you?
Not
They
at
didn't
all,
give you a
no.
whack if you didn't go to
No.
church?
So I came to this thing. Religion to me was an alternative to my parents.
Okay.
When I went out to the Iron Islands
This is at 16?
at 16,
Yeah.
and I came back. I was there for 4 or 5 days, and I came back.
And who was that group? Was it
Father Darren Malloy, who
Okay.
he was a teacher in Dundalk, and he left. He was a priest as well, and he left to try and. I guess there's a history of Irish religious people going to extreme places
Yeah.
and trying to
Yeah.
make communities out there. You know,
there is.
abandoned hills and stuff like that. There's always
Yeah.
you find the religious forts and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or little cabins. I came back. I was spent 4 or 5 days out in this place, and I came back to my parents. And one of the things that the people now, in hindsight, you know, places like that attract places outside society attract people outside society, and so it was more filled with there was the ratio of authentic spiritual people you could lean on
Right.
to people you couldn't was about 1 to 8.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
But one of the things, one of them said to me, kind of struck me. Says, in order to find out what's important to you in your life, you have to let go of everything.
Okay.
Okay, and the things that are
That's like
important,
Buddhist. That's the
yeah,
Buddhist philosophy.
and the things that are important will come back,
Right.
and the things that aren't important will stay away. So this is the sentence I clung to. Right?
Okay.
So I arrived back at home, and I'm still a week to go with the Easter holidays. I'm 16, right?
Okay.
So I said to my parents, I'm going to let go of everything. And they hadn't a clue what I'm talking about. This is their worst fear. I told them I was going to this religious community, and they're kind of, well, okay.
Did they just say that? Well, okay.
Yeah.
Right,
And it's,
okay.
you know, let me, at 16, hitch from Navan
Okay.
to Russellville,
Okay.
and get a boat out from Russellville. So they were quite very tolerant, you know.
Yeah.
So I let go of everything.
Oh, they were happy to see you go.
Some one or the other. Yeah. The pack helped me pack my bags. Here's some extra
Walking you
money.
down to the gate.
Off you go now.
All right.
And
So
my
what-
idea of letting go of everything, was to sit at I had a table in my bedroom, and the vision I had was I was going to sit at the table in the one position, right? I was going to let go of cleanliness. I was going to let go of food. I was going to let go of all my interaction with other human beings. Everything. I was going to stay at this table, so it's ridiculous, in this position, for as long as it took, just with my hands down at that. And I got it started in the morning, and about 3:30 in the afternoon, my dad came in to me and said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I'm letting go of everything." So, get out. I'm letting go. You're in the way.
You're in that equation, Dad.
And I caved in by dinner time.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
But and did you give up that whole idea? I mean,
No, that still stays with me. What happened was, it's odd because what happened to me, I took on this whole religious thing. I had decided I was going to leave school that summer. I was sent away because I had basically failed all my exams in St. Pat's and that. And my idea was that I was going to go to this boarding school, because I'd always told my parents the reason that I didn't work at home was because there was too many children. And I was only looking for an excuse, really.
Yeah, right.
So they sent me off to boarding school to repeat my pre-leaving cert year. So I arrived at the school, and in the Christmas exams, I did fantastic. I came 5th out of 84, which is really good, you know.
Absolutely.
At Easter, just before Easter, I discovered this religious thing. Went over there for Easter, came back, and from Easter to the summer holidays, one of the things we did, I set up this magazine in the school, and it was all about anti-apartheid, and so it was really condescending stuff, and
Right.
graffiti and articles from Father Dara and stuff like
Right.
that. And I boycotted the summer exams. My idea was I was going to leave school, and the line I had was going to set up all these organisations to help the world.
Okay.
So I had a big party.
Are you sure you're not blown up?
I'm positive, yeah. I'm not.
Don't have his money.
Right?
Don't have his money.
No, that was the idea. So we set up this magazine, and I was going out with a girl at the time, and it was this.
I thought you'd left. I thought part of your reaction to a breakup was to go.
No,
to Ireland.
no. This is before. This is while everyone was.
Right.
This was going to Ireland the first time as part of the Bloom, the
Okay.
first Bloom. And I came back from Ireland.
Did you go with her? Did you go
No, I
with her?
didn't. No.
Okay, right.
It was spring into summer.
Right.
It was fantastic. I came back. I was in Ballinasloe. The grounds of the boarding school were fantastic. The line I used, the whole place was humming with power. It was brilliant, and my hair was long and curly, and it was just everything was fantastic. And I was leaving school, and I felt righteous.
Okay.
So I didn't bother with my exams, and they had a big party for me, and a big huge cake, and good luck Tommy on your walk of life from all these girls down the local convent. It was fantastic. And then during the summer, I'd hitch up to Ballinasloe to see this girl, and there was an abandoned railway sleeper, not a railway sleeper, a container.
Oh, okay.
Just a big kind of industrial in a field, and we stayed there. It was fantastic. Then my report card came home. I hadn't told my parents yet that I was leaving school. My report card comes home, and 0 and everything, just like it had been 12 months previous. And my parents, after shelling out, so big fucking conniption.
So you didn't even get 4%.
Less than nothing. Boycotted them all.
And the daddy didn't have to say, "Tell me it's 4 out of 5."
No.
Okay.
So my dad says to me, "What do you want to do?" And I said to him, "I want to leave school, and I want to set up all these organisations to help the world." And he said, "Okay." And I chickened out.
All right. Okay.
I said, maybe I'm not sure. I don't know.
Did you say no immediately, or did you?
I can't
reflect on it
remember.
For a while?
I can't remember. But that's what
Did he know you were going to say?
Maybe. He's a
You
good
know what I
poker
mean?
player. My father used to always say, "Tom, you're a martyr without a cause."
All right. A rebel without a pause.
So they gave me that offer. So that's happened. So anyway, so the onset of winter, autumn in Ballinasloe, back to the school, slightly less noble than when I'd left.
Yeah.
I'm coming back. I thought you were leaving. No, I'm back. Teachers, why are you doing back here? I thought you were here. Because I'd done so badly on all my exams, I had to go to be re-interviewed by the president of the school, who's now the head of Trócaire, John Kirby, to see if he'd let me back into the school. I was pally with another guy, a good friend of mine called Mark Byrne as well at the time, and we were kind of a little item together, as one of those kind of very close friendships that you have as a teenager. And the two of us, we went out to Ireland together, and we were supposed to leave school together. So
You weren't lovers.
not at all. No, people thought we were, but no, we just formed this really, really strong.
People do assume that at a time, don't
Yeah,
they?
but
I mean,
this
your
is-
buddy. Yeah.
It was just a fantastic bond between the two of us. He left the school, and he just re-enrolled in another school in Dublin, and that was that. So in order for me to come back into the boarding school, the president said to me that if it wasn't for you, Mark Byrne would still be here in the school. And the reason he left is because of you. We're only allowing you back into the school on probation, and you're on probation until Christmas. And one of the two things you have to do, one is you have to excel at your studies again, and the second thing you have to is you are not allowed to talk. And it sounds daft when you say it to a teenager, it sounds important, but listen to it as adult, it sounds ridiculous. It says you're not allowed to talk to any of the other students about religion or about politics or anything like that. You have to stay well clear of that.
Just those subjects.
Yeah, because I think he thought that
You'd already taken. You were going to be a propagandist or something.
something like that, and because of the magazine as well,
Yeah.
that I kind of put together, and I was the editor of it and stuff like that. So that was part of the deal. And that, I would say, October, November of that year, that's when myself and the girls split up. So it was a combination of the kind of the wings being gone from everything. I was the previous 6 months earlier. I was on the upward journey of this magnificent flight. The weather was fantastic. I liked my hair. Everything was good, you know. And I came back and everything just collapsed. As part of the religious thing, I started. There was a society in the school called St. Vincent de Paul. And I took it upon myself to visit the local. There's a big psychiatric hospital in Ballinasloe, and I took it upon myself to visit a ward in the psychiatric hospital. And I used to go out there 2 or 3 days a week after school. And when I think about it now, they shouldn't have let me to visit this ward of long-term psychiatric patients, and I would just sit there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, 3 or 4 days a week, with men who were severely depressed and medicated people. And all these things just started having and that's when the kind of the Russian penitent monk appeared.
All right.
He'd definitely been Gandhi Mike Scott before, but now he'd kind of changed into this bearded, dour creature. And things got worse and worse and more serious, and the weather was terrible, and it was always raining, and the girls started going out with another fella who was in my school as well, and it was just everywhere. I was just being hounded wherever I went by.
And had you been telling her about this monk? Would you have shared that with her?
Absolutely. Or the Russian?
Yeah, would she have known about all the shadows that were creeping in around you?
No.
Okay. Why didn't you talk with a girlfriend at that level in those then? Was that just not?
I started going to a counsellor. I can't remember how I did it, but there was a social worker in the town.
This is after that set of circumstances.
Yeah, this is in the winter now. And I started seeing this social worker in the town, a man, and I remember sitting in there and not being able to tell him about. It was like the weird thing was it was a way of just punishing myself, you know. What I'd done is I had found a way to attack myself without knowing how to defeat it. Right. So I was constantly being attacked and stuff like that. And anyway, so it was like that for about, I would say, it was funny, probably until the following spring.
How long did you go to him for?
I went to him about 4 or 5 times.
Did it help after? Did it help?
No, it didn't. No.
All right. Okay.
I mean,
he just listened then and let you.
He may have been at sea as well, you know. I don't really. I was in English class, coming up to the spring again, and I read this poem by George Herbert called "The Collar."
Right.
And it started off with the first line was, "I struck the board and cried no more. I will abroad." Oh, yeah. And as soon as I read that, I said, "Fuck it, that's it. It's gone."
All the stuff that you were carrying around.
All the religious stuff said, that doesn't interest me anymore. So I left it, and I'd say
a single line of a poem could galvanise you that way.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
And I've read it loads of times before.
All right.
And I clicked into it and I said, that's it, I'm not doing it. And it probably took another year for it to go completely. And in a way, it probably hasn't gone entirely.
Yeah.
But the severity of it started weakening. As soon as that sentence hit me, I said, that's it. I don't have to do this.
All right. Did the girlfriend leave or did she come back?
Oh no, she was another country.
Was it?
Yeah, she was.
But did you become an attractive option to women then, or were they afraid? No. Were they kind of keeping their distance because of either what they'd heard, the involvement in the religious stuff, or that you were just whatever?
A friend of mine has this great line. He says, "The only type of women who are interested in a man with no prospects is a woman with no prospects."
All right. Okay. All right. But we're not going to talk about it, but you did get involved with a woman at that point, and that lasted a decade, didn't it?
Well, shortly afterwards, yeah.
And you became a daddy within a couple of years.
Yeah.
So clearly, you didn't not engage with the female of the species, or you didn't not believe in life enough to go have a child.
Well, it wasn't so much that I didn't believe that there's no belief in life or anything like that. You know, I think sometimes there's a bigger wisdom inside us than we're aware of, and we do things and create situations that we only really see the wisdom of afterwards, you know.
But did I read somewhere that you were overwhelmed by becoming a daddy, and you sought therapy again?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Well, I was 24 when I became a dad.
By that stage, but in those years between 16 and 24, we'd say a year after saying no more.
Yeah.
Did it all go, and did you have a kind of? Were you as happy as you had been on the spring rising in that year?
No, definitely not. No, probably didn't find that again till I was. I don't know. I think maybe without sounding too odd, but there was probably a shadow created there and then. That the winter of 1986.
This is the shadow of the 16th year.
Yeah.
Even though you said, I'm rid of this, it's gone.
No, what I tried to get rid of was the kind of
Okay.
the Catholic aspect to it. I said I am not going to read any more of these books. I am not going to try and be this. I said I'm going to stop. But the shadow had been born.
Yeah.
And that's all.
But how did it manifest itself in you? Were you guilt ridden? Were you plagued with questions about everything?
I went to when I left school and I moved down to Cork, and I started to work with the Simon community down there as a part-time worker. And I went for an interview to be a full-time worker. And they said to me halfway through the interview, and I just was a bad day.
Calling us.
What?
You should be calling us now.
What they said to me was halfway through the interview they go. Now it wasn't so much. It was much to do with the geography of where I was, because they were sitting against a window and the fucking sun was shining down on me like this, and it was my birthday and I just got my ear pierced and I wasn't feeling like fucking well.
What an excuse for looking tortured.
Right? And they said, do you suffer from depression yourself, Tommy? And as soon as you said that, I hadn't got the job.
And what did you say?
I can't remember,
but did you? You did, didn't you? You suffered from shadows, whatever your name you want.
Shadow, yeah. But I think I don't believe in.
It's certainly a condition of late teens.
Yeah.
And this tunnel you referred to for your son.
Yeah.
Of going through it's a tunnel of adolescence, and the tunnel of how to fucking change from a young boy into a man, and into a man also who is in a relationship and becomes a father.
Yeah.
We're not always equipped at 24 for those roles.
No, we're not.
You know, for the demands of growing up that quickly.
Well, you don't grow up that quickly.
So what did you answer? Did you say yes, I do?
Can't remember what I said, but I because my own response wasn't as interesting to me as the question.
Okay, and then they gave you the card with the number on it and said call us.
Yeah. If ever in time.
Talk about a job application going arse-west. But you still obviously were driven by those urges. I mean, at that stage you were not looking to performing. You were still looking to be in an altruistic, serving the community job.
Priesthood, social worker, psychiatrist.
But never you didn't seriously consider.
No, I did. Yeah, I did. I went to their dentist and I had the head of their dentist visit my parents. And they were. I went on a weekend retreat with them and stuff like that when this is after I'd left school and everything. So I was gearing up to join them.
Were you?
Yeah, but the reason I didn't join them was because I didn't do well enough in my leaving cert, and they needed people who a priest needed to be able to get into college.
Oh yeah, okay.
To study theology, and my leaving cert results wouldn't have qualified me for that. So
did that disappoint you?
I can't. You're 18 and you're a thing inhabits you intensely. 6 weeks, 3 months, and then.
But you see, there you're saying that from 16 or 17, within a year, goodbye, I'll rid myself of all this. But within another year, you're still, you know what I mean? You're still saying, I'm not only back, but I may go and become a priest.
It's probably that declaration was probably just a momentary volcano. It was abrupt. Then this is it, no more.
At 18.
No, but I was 17 when I read.
All right. So when you didn't get the priesthood, or you didn't go for that, and you realised you couldn't go for that, how do you? Because I always ask, when a boxer is a boxer for years and then they stop, how do they discharge the energy?
Yeah.
Well, some of them start boxing their wives,
as
we've recently read.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, to me, a religious calling. I sat in with Christian Brothers and went the whole thing for going for a priest. But my dad just laughed at the aspirations. Said, "Fuck off out and play."
Yeah.
When I told him, and you're only fucking 16, to go, he must be right, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that. But something of it lingers. I mean, in the job I do, interviewing people, there's some kind of something pushing through you, to get real communication, real connection. So how did you discharge it then at 18? Did you suspend it all and focus on the family?
Well, no.
Is that it? No more?
No, I hooked up with some people in Galway, and I lived there and I was signing on.
Right.
And I just did that for about 4 years.
Did what though?
Nothing. I played snooker all day.
Did you?
I stood up at 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 or 12. Went to a snooker hall, played there from 2 till 7.
For 3 years?
Yeah, at least 3 years.
Okay. And what kind of 3 years was that?
Fantastic. It was because I was living with students as well and other people who were on the dole.
Yeah. So it was a community of
It was nothing. It was nothing.
no prospects.
It's fantastic. But Galway is a city that can tolerate that.
Oh, yeah,
Used to be anyway. You know,
Yeah.
Galway was the kind of thing where everybody I knew had signed on or was signing on, was about to sign on. I was 20, just gone 20, and I was long-term unemployed. Because if you're on the door for 18 months, that was it.
You become a long-term unemployed.
And it was just...
And it didn't eat at you, it didn't erode you, you didn't
No.
think, where the fuck am I going with this?
No, it didn't. Every now and again.
Alright.
But, you know, they were great days. Group was living together, very little money. Any extra money I had was gone on snooker. They used to let me play on a slate, basically, and I'd pay my bill. You'd play somebody for the lights. So you get these guys coming in with jobs and stuff like that who play during their lunch break, or afternoons they weren't working, and you play for the lights. And the lights would be about maybe £4 or £5 a game, you know.
Alright. So when did you grow up and out of that? When did you decide, when you became a parent, I have
Probably, yeah.
responsibilities to
What am I going to do?
Because you can't play pool all day if you've got a kid.
No. So what am I going to do?
So, yeah. So is that when the reality check?
That's probably when I started, yeah.
At 23, 24?
Yeah. And then I started doing stand-up when I was 26.
But you also went into that second bout of therapy after becoming a daddy. Did that help? What was he or she?
No, he was a nut.
Oh, was he?
He was a guy, I just read it, he was this little ad in the Galway Advertiser. Right? And he didn't, and you know, I think part of me didn't want it to work because I picked the guy who had no letters after his name. So it's just this guy.
Alright. You still had that pennant monk on your fucking shoulder.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe Jackson here again. I thank you for listening to this edition of the Joe Jackson Interviews podcast. More can be heard on my website, joejacksoninterviewer.com.